It's Fill Your Plate Now, where every bite brings you closer to the farm gate and further from what's unhealthy. Now, here's your hosts, Julie and Tammy, helping you live well by filling your plate well.
Well, Julie, I am real excited today because today we have one of our dairy families on.
Yay!
Casey and Andrea Dugan. And one of the things I love is they're a fourth generation dairy family. And, 98% of the dairies in Arizona are family owned.
Right.
People see dairies and the average size of a dairy is about 3,500 cows, but they don't realize these are family owned dairies and they're taken care of very well by the family, generation after generation of dairy families. So the Dugans are fourth generation dairy family. Today we have Casey Dugan, who went to Northern Arizona University and got a degree in business. We have about 40 dairy families in Arizona right now. And again, the average herd size is about 3,500. But rather than going into a ton of detail, I think you both can probably explain a little bit about your background and getting into dairy yourselves better than I can. So, Casey and Andrea, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, it's kind of a neat story. I grew up in the dairy industry. My grandfather actually was from Wisconsin, and he had six sons. And in the 60s, he got sick, and they told me he had to move to a drier climate. So he sold all of his cows. He had about 200 cows back then, and had to move to Arizona, and brought all six of his sons down and learned how to dairy farm in Arizona compared to Wisconsin. And all six of the sons became dairy farmers. And yeah, so then from there, that generation, and then my dad is still dairy farming, and my uncle and one of my cousins in Idaho. And so after college, went to work for my dad, running equipment, doing other stuff. And then when my uncles decided to move to Idaho, and my dad bought the dairy from him, and then I had the opportunity to buy it from him in 2010. Got married the same year to Andrea in 2010, and yeah, been dairy farming ever since.
Well, that's what I love about the Dugan dairy story is the six brothers, but I couldn't keep them all straight. And it makes me think of the Van Hofwagens in Arizona in the dairy industry. There's about, what, five of original brothers, and then now all the generations that have followed. So anyway, it's a cool story. Love the Dugans, and it's impressive that it's part of our Arizona agriculture history. Andrea, do you come from a farm or a dairy or a ranch, or is this all new?
No, I don't. That's the funny thing. No, the closest to any agricultural background that I have was my grandfather who had a ranch, and I think it was more of a hobby. It was more of a smaller scale situation, and he had cows and he had horses and pigs and goats and chickens. But yeah, no. And then my mom, she worked for the state. She worked with individuals with intellectual disabilities, and she retired from there. And my dad, he worked for as an intake officer for the Pinal County Jail, and then he worked for the state where he retired, which was the Arizona State Prison Complex there in Florence, and he worked multiple units until his retirement as a correctional officer. So very different than how Casey
So you
was
had to
brought up.
jump in with both feet, and everything was new every day and every moment.
Yeah,
Yes.
probably quite a change. How did the two of you meet then?
I was actually out at the bar that night.
I wish we could say we met in church or college or something like that or school, but that was not the case. Uh, I was out. I graduated from my dental assisting school, and that's what I was doing. So I was out with my girlfriend, just celebrating. Her and I we just finished school, so we were just gonna go and just decompress. And we were at the Dugan's favorite bar here in Casa Grande, McMaster's, and a very charismatic young man came in and just really wanted to come and hang out at our table.
So they wanted to leave, but I was like, well, I didn't drive here. Maybe I can go with you guys to the next bar. So I rode with him to the next bar, and
He was at the car before we were, so he became our personal tour guide of Casa Grande that evening.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then it was funny. At the next bar, a bar fight broke out.
Did.
People started running off, and I was like,
I mean, bottles were being broken. There was glass.
I wasn't involved. I
Yeah, we
wasn't
weren't
involved.
involved. That she was ready to go, and I'm like, wait, what about that guy? What about that guy? So he was at the car waiting for us. So
And it was getting, a little late, so I go, do you guys want to see some cows? Do you guys want to go see my buffalo? And they're like, what?
yeah,
You know?
we don't normally just drive around strange guys in our car, my girlfriend and I, but we figured, like we're two able-bodied women. We could take him if we need to, but no, he turned out to be a really nice young man. And it turned out he did have a dairy farm and we milk cows. It was like 10 o'clock at night. We're milking cows, 9 o'clock, milking cows. And I thought, this is amazing. And then he hits me with probably the best pickup line ever.
So you want to see my buffalo?
I was like,
That's a new one.
Hello.
I haven't heard that before.
yeah. So we're like, oh, we really have a buffalo. He says, yes, his name is Tatanka. I'm like, oh, mate. So we drive down the road, and sure enough, he has a buffalo in his backyard, and we fed it carrots, and we had a great time, took some really nice pictures, and it was just, it was a very different kind of experience. I don't know.
It's a
It was one to
classic
remember.
story. It's a classic
Oh,
story.
that's
And
great.
I'm wondering too if this is a dairy thing on the farm because the Kerr family dairy farm, they also have buffalo. So I don't know, maybe there's something happening there. Is there a story there, Casey? Why do dairy farms also host buffalo?
One of my neighbors, he actually had a herd of buffaloes, and maybe 30 or 40 buffaloes, and he got sick, and then he wasn't able to sell them right away. So we were feeding the buffalo herd for him. We were throwing a couple bales of hay out there every day for him, and for repayment, he goes, whatever buffalo jumps onto your trailer, you can have. So big old bull buffalo jumped on a trailer, and this thing was 1,800 pounds. I mean, just a gigantic, probably 4 or 5 year old buffalo. And I had horse pins and stuff, but I didn't have any horses, so put the buffalo out there, and it was a good attraction always when people came over to my house to see his buffalo. We throw a tire in the thing, and it'd throw tires all over the place. But yeah, it was a good buffalo, and then good food later too.
Oh, it was delicious. Yeah, later I thanked him for showing my friend and I around. And fun fact, my friend ended up marrying a dairy farmer as well, like 5 years
Really?
later. Yeah,
Oh
she
my
did.
goodness.
Yeah,
That's
so we thanked Casey, and then the next day he invited me to a lunch. So, and the rest is history.
I love that story, you
that's a
guys. So,
great story.
and I have a question on the day to day. We often ask this of our farm and ranch and dairy families, just so that our listeners can get a real vibe and an understanding of what's going on in the farm. And I want to ask Andrea this because she had to jump in with both feet, never having a dairy background. What is the dairy, day to day dairy experience for you today? Or certainly maybe in the beginning of your marriage, however it's transitioned.
At the beginning, uh I really wasn't involved. I had my own job. I was working in town. I worked for a dentist here in town, and I was working as a dental assistant for many years. And then it got to a point where I think he just wanted me to have a little bit more of a flexible schedule, and he needed some help as well. So then I transitioned to learning a little bit more behind the scenes, more of like the bills, the commodities, um, all the invoices and payroll. And so now I do the payroll and all the tickets and invoices and all the commodity prices and all that stuff.
And you discovered how complex and intricate and diverse dairy farming is.
Yes.
A- And and
Yeah.
Casey, tell us a little bit about what your day looks like and how things have changed over time.
I wish I could go back to when I first started. That was almost more fun because out there with the cows a little bit more. Um, but nowadays it's such a big business that you have to micromanage every decision spending wise too. I mean, it's just everything costs so much between cost of fuel to labor to everything that you really have to manage the people, the cows, um, a step back. I would love to drive a tractor every day. I still do, but I can't do it every day because I need to be there for the daily decisions that need to happen because everything can change in a day. It's amazing how, like, I always say, I don't know how cows can survive in the wild. One little change to your feed ration, the milk production will change here or there or something. So yeah, it's a day to day. You never know what you're really going to be doing. But main thing is making decisions and buying and selling and financial decisions. And I always say my job is to keep everybody going, keep everybody working, keep everybody moving. I don't want anybody feel like, well, I didn't know what to do. You know, we're one big team and we have to work together. So it's like always trying to keep the group moving forward.
Has technology changed a lot over time?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember when we first started, we used to have to print lists out and you'd have to go find each cow and look down the list of numbers. You'd have 100 numbers that you're checking and try to find out 4-digit cow number in that list. And it would take forever. If you missed a cow, you had to go back all the way through to that 100 cows and look for that one cow that maybe you missed or was missing an ear tag or something. So now the cows have RFID tags. So we can go through with like a wand and it's kind of like a scanner, like at Walmart, it'll scan their ear and then it will tell us their cow number, their milk production, if they need treatment, if they're pregnant. Basically, anything that we do at a cow, we document. And we have a history from when it was a baby calf you know, till we have to send it off.
Is that tag ID technologies one of your favorite, or from your perspective in the dairy business, what's been the most transformative technology that you now have access for the dairies?
Stuff like that speeds up our job. So, but I mean, for the dairy industry in general, probably genetics, um, the technology and genetics that, I mean, every year our cows get better and better just because we're breeding them with better sires. And yeah, it's amazing how we can produce more and more milk with about the same amount of cows every year. It's a bad thing with the supply and demand idea, but it's a good thing to see that the dairy farmers, we care about our animals and we're getting better every year.
It's very apparent you all care about your animals because happy cows are going to produce more milk. And it seems like the dairies are producing more and more milk. There's fewer dairies, but we still see over 80% of the dairy in the grocery store from local dairies.
Right.
So that's a great testament to the animals being treated well and producing well, I think.
And testament to your point on genetics, how they keep improving, so they keep producing. Wow.
Now, I know something that comes up a lot is water. Do you want to talk a little bit about water and what you all do to conserve water?
So first off, we do farm a couple hundred acres too. We're a part of the best management program. So when we do farm, we make sure the fields are level and laser leveled, and we're really efficient when we farm. At my dairy, we do have a flush system. So the water that we use to wash the cows before they enter the barn, we wash the cows. We take all that water that goes into a separator, and then from there we reuse that same water to flush the system where the cows are standing where they eat. So that way their feet stay clean. And then from there, it goes into another solid separator where it actually goes into a holding pond. And then from that water, it will go back into the field. So we get to use our water at least 3 times at the dairy farm. But yeah, water is a big issue, especially in Arizona. I mean, you can't waste any of it.
The nutrition for our dairy cows, I always get envious because I've been told that you guys have nutritionists that kind of identify exactly what they need to eat, and all sounds so healthy, but dairy cows are also known as the world's greatest recyclers when it comes to what they eat. Can you talk about that?
So yeah, cows, a lot of stuff that would end up in the landfill, we can actually feed to cows and they can actually do a good job digesting it. So almond hulls, for example, is one thing that will go into a cow's diet. And with the nutritionist, like it's amazing how this these people they make sure that the cows have the best diet possible. I always say it's like they're a professional athlete, performing every day, and we got to make sure to get the nutrients that they need to perform well and stay healthy. Other ingredients, we get bakery waste, which is all the leftover bakery products. They take it and they recook it and they ferment it into a product for the cows. We used to use a glycerin that's gone away now, but that was basically liquid corn is what the same nutritional value would be, and that's from the leftover grease from restaurants. They process it and pull all the bad stuff out of it, and then put the corn back into it, and we could add that to the dairy. And then lactose, like Fairlife, they pull out the lactose out of the milk. We actually take that back and we'll recycle it and feed it back to the cows.
You know what breweries use after they've used the malt and stuff? Isn't there some spent brewers or distillers grain that you can feed them as well?
Yeah, uh, DDG is dried distilled grains. We feed that, but from the brewers, there's only a couple local brewers, and then they don't really have that much left over. But it comes a lot from the what's it called? I think it's the ethanol. It's a byproduct of ethanol. Yeah, so the fuel plants that produce ethanol, their byproduct is DDG, is what we call it, dried distilled.
And the other thing that Tammy always reminds me is that the different stages of a cow's life require different, lineup of what is in their diet.
The feed.
Yeah, the feed, basically. But that's critical depending on the age of the cow and if she's in production and or if she's pregnant. So I think that's way cool. And we don't really think of that. We think we're just toss them some bales of hay and don't think anything else.
That's what we said. I'd like to drive by my dairy a couple miles away and just look at it and be like, oh, it looks so easy from here. It just looks like, yeah, just eating cows, milking cows. It's no big deal.
How often do you have a nutritionist out there?
So he's on call all day long. But he comes out once a week, and then he checks all the feed. Our feed program, um, another great piece of technology. We know what we're feeding them, each cow, how much it costs per day, how much each ingredient each cow is getting, how many airs, if a feeder made an air feeding the ration. Um, so efficiency is big in dairy farming. Like you got to be as efficient as possible, no waste.
I think one of the things that always impressed me when I've been out to a dairy like yours, when it's really hot in the summertime, the cows still are kept really comfortable. Talk a little bit about the systems you have in place to help that happen.
Yeah, so it's neat. We always once it gets over about 82 to 85 degrees, we have to turn the fans on, which it's good for the cows, bad for a dairy farmer because our electricity bill about doubles, um, which is a lot of money. And but it's a necessity for the cows to be comfortable and for us to be successful as dairy farmers, especially in Arizona. But it's really neat. Like a couple years ago when we had the most days over 110, because it was so dry and there was no humidity, the fans were working perfectly. Like the cows were comfortable. We had the most milk production that we ever did in the summer that year just because there was no humidity. So the fans do really well in the dry heat. And yeah, so we're constantly in the milk barns. You walk in the milk barn where you get milked, it feels like a wind tunnel in there with mist going through. We cool it down about it's close to 40 degrees that you can cool down where the cows stand. And in our dairy, it's a Saudi style dairy. So the feed is actually underneath shade all the time. The cows are underneath shade and the water's under shade. So the feed doesn't spoil. The cows get good nutrition and then they're always comfortable too. The more the cow lays down, you're doing a good job.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So when they're laying down, they're very comfortable. And you said they're in the shade. Plus, they have the misters and the fans, and it drops it as much as 40 degrees. That's amazing.
So I have a story, even though I know we're interviewing the Dugans. But when I was with a photographer and we went onto one of the Arizona dairies, and we went behind the shades, under the misters. It's just outside of that shade was probably 112, 115 degrees. And we were inside with the cows taking pictures. I got cold. I had to go back out. That's how amazing they are with taking care of their cows, which prompts another question, because really this is animal welfare. And you guys, the dairy industry even has a set of guidelines on how you take care of your cows. So if I'm, you know, a novice and I've never been on a dairy and I'm concerned about how you take care of the cows, what would you say to someone like that?
Sometimes that's even better not to have any experience because then I'll train you how to do it the right way and not be aggressive with the animal. Sometimes people think it's a big animal and you need to yell at it and stuff, but you don't need to at all. You need to just take your time. The cow is a very calm animal, especially dairy cows. Dairy cows have been around people their whole life, so they know how to move around people. We have a program that every dairy in Arizona participates with that they get training on how to treat animals and how if they do see misconduct to be able to report it. And we do the videos monthly, if not weekly. But if you're a new employee, you have to go through a series of a training just with animal well-being before they can even really step foot on the farm.
And you all talked a little bit about genetics earlier and changes. Go into a little more detail. What kind of changes are you seeing genetically in breeding the cows?
It's amazing. You can actually pick what genetics you want. You can go after certain bulls, like they're proven. So they like it's not just a theory that this one's going to get you more milk production or calf ease or um, longevity. Like there's a million different things that you can breed for. Um, a lot of us breed for milk production and calving ease just because you're going to push through and make sure that cow's healthy and is still perform. But I mean, in the past 10 years, butterfat has really increased in the nation. And that's mainly because of everybody's breeding for that higher butterfat because we get paid more if we get butterfat. But now there's too much butterfat in the world.
So now you got to dial it back, change the genetics. No.
Well, the
So,
protein's still real important.
yeah,
Though.
no.
So when you get butterfat, you
Yeah.
still get protein.
Yeah.
Everyone wants protein right now, which is a good thing. Never seen that before in my life, that everybody's after the protein right now in the world.
I really think the protein craze is here to stay because people are really realizing how valuable nutritionally that is for us.
Well, and from my nutrition side, protein from an animal source like milk is a high quality protein, so
Yes.
it's better absorbed and the body utilizes more of it. So that's kind of the golden protein. You really
Yes.
want those animal proteins.
Well, I have a question for Andrea. What was your biggest surprise or pleasant surprise or thing that you really took note of when you started getting introduced to the dairy lifestyle, or certainly just dairy in general? Besides, you had the experience because you drink milk, hopefully, and or had yogurt or enjoyed cheese, but from this side of it,
Something that just kind of surprised me was just, you always just think, well, they'll come home. They'll come home at the end of the day. You just never really prepared, or maybe I was just very naive in the beginning and not understanding like stuff happens. You don't always get to come home 9 to 5. This is a job that does not close. This is an industry that does not close. It's a 24-hour, 7 day a week kind of deal. And you just have to be patient. You have to be flexible and you just have to roll with the punches, good or bad. I just ride it out.
She's been out there several times
Oh,
when we have emergencies, and she's chased a lot of cows.
I've learned that there are days where I could keep up with the cow, and there are days that they outrun me.
I
I
love it.
think we probably all could say
We probably
that.
could.
Well, what from for both of you, what's your favorite part about having a dairy?
I think my favorite is just the community that comes with it, the people, obviously the animals, and seeing firsthand like how much these farmers actually care about these cows and these animals. You know, a well a healthy, well taken care of cow is the key to our future of our farms. So that's what I love to see. I get to see it firsthand. I'm very blessed to see it firsthand.
Yeah, and no, I always joke like I graduated college, and and it was a very general business degree. I was not very good at school, but I that's what pushed me wanting to go back into dairy business because I didn't want to deal with people. I went to college. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do something totally different. I'm gonna get out of the dairy industry, and but spending a few years in college and experiencing different people, I was like, man, I'm so lucky to have an opportunity. Maybe just go back and work with cows and equipment and people and you know, it's it's a great industry to be in, but it's super hard at the same time. You don't know if you're going to be here one year to the next. It's very volatile, and but that's what I love about it. One day I can be on a tractor, one day I'd be in my office, one day it's not too busy, but like, oh, let's get out here and do something else, and like, but there's something always going on all the time. There's I can wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and walk out and check on the guys milking cows, or there's always something to do. It's always something different every day. So yeah, I love the industry.
Well, I have a question for both of you as well, but it's kind of on the flip side or the other side of the coin. Tammy asked about what's the most, you know, favorite thing. I'm going to ask what's the most challenging. And Casey, you maybe kind of alluded to that because you said volatile, but expand on that. What are the challenges of managing, running, being the next generation of the Dugan family tradition of these dairies?
I mean, we've had so many rough years where you, I, I was able to speak to Ag West one time, and I made everybody kind of gasp. I told them I'd had my loan paid off twice and then go all the way back down. It's like I've seen my loan go like this. Like it's so scary. We're working out there, and you're doing the same quality of work. The cows are producing good milk. It's just the price. The price can go up and down depending on supply and demand, really globally. We have to export, Tammy would probably correct me, at least over 20% of our milk in the United States to have a decent milk price. And so it's just scary one year to the next. You don't, we always say, I think I heard it on, oh, what's it called? Oh, it's a Western sitcom with Kevin Costner. He was talking about the ranching industry is like one of the only industries that thank God that you broke even. And that really set home with me too. Is like dairy industry, you're super happy you just break even. You make money maybe once every 5 years and you write it out. So, but that's and then it's hard finding employees. This is hard labor. It's hard work. You got to find people that are good with animals, people that have patience, and it's it's a different type of industry to be in. You got to be thick skinned, and yeah, it's tough.
Well, Andrea, maybe you alluded to the challenges by having to chase after cows, but uh, and maybe even adding on to what Casey just said, what do you see as the challenges from your perspective?
Well, I wish that the sole challenges we have were chasing cows. Like if that's it, then I'll take it. But no, I think in my opinion, I think that Mother Nature's it's those scenarios that you have no control over that affect your day-to-day operations. And whether it be monsoon season, whether it's things breaking down at the dairy, whether it's fires, just all those situations that you have to, just think fast and make the best out of a really bad situation.
I just have to pause here long enough to say thank you for being willing to face those challenging times. As business professionals, and that business happens to be a dairy, and until we talk to our dairy families, our farm families, our ranch families, and we're reminded how challenging it is, we need to be saying thank you more, and I say thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think um, our listeners who have not had association with a dairy or with other forms of agriculture, they see a dairy, but they don't really understand that it's a business and has to operate like a business and, has to do a lot to just stay above ground, stay afloat.
Yeah.
And so many things are out of your control. When it comes to those that are not involved with dairy, what do you think the biggest misconceptions are that they have?
That this is an industry where you're gonna, you know, be rich and famous one day. You're not. You're doing it because you care.
Yeah. Or, too, it's like people think it's a factory farm and like we're like in a big industrial operation where we don't care about the animals and we're just sucking the milk out of them, and, there's no way, like we said, we're all family farmers. We've all been doing this for a long time and we wouldn't do it if it's not for the profits. That's for sure. We do it because we love the industry, love being farmers. We love agriculture, the freedom to be out, working outside. Yeah, I mean it's that, and then misconceptions too is just that people get the wrong idea that we're out not to the best interest of the cow. We definitely are the best interest for the cow. We care about the cow. If the cow doesn't perform, we're out of the business and we wouldn't be here for generations.
There are so many factors involved and so many things you have to do to make it successful. And on top of that, it's a perishable product. And actually, it's about 48 hours from the farm to the grocery store. So it's a
What?
very fresh product,
Mhm.
but so much is involved. And I don't think the average person understands how much it takes to produce that high quality milk that you all do.
You should be proud daily of what you do, and I know you are. Otherwise, the Dugan family wouldn't have stayed in it as long as they had. I adore your family and the extended family, and I think it's your sister, if it's not a cousin. Kelly Dugan Wilcox is very involved with us at Farm Bureau. Do I have that right?
Yeah, yeah, it's my
Yeah,
sister.
yeah. And it's just fun to have these exchanges with all the different members of a particular family. And I can't celebrate you guys enough and what you do. So let's, for one of the questions I want to ask, um, what's your what are your future plans for the dairy if you look at it from a business perspective?
Um, my future would be just to continue growing a little bit as we can, and hopefully be able to advance the dairy. There's so many new technologies out that would be so exciting to see to be able to implement in my dairy farm. There's we call them Fitbits for cows, so that way it'll track if the cow's eating correctly or if it's sick before anybody can even notice. It'll notify the dairy farmer that that there's an issue with the cow. In the future, I think there will be a lot less contact with humans. The cows will be free, be able to move and be milked, maybe with robots in different areas like that, where the cow's really not going to be affected by humans, and we'll just let them milk and eat and sit and relax. And the technology that is really growing, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to partake in it, but it's expensive.
Well, if it gets less expensive and you can participate in it, then you can get back into the onto the tractor and do the thing that you really enjoy doing, right?
Well, that's the thing. So people think like, oh, the robots and all this stuff is going to come in, but it's not going to. The amount of people working on dairy might change, but the advancement of that employee is going to have to be way better because he's going to have to work on robots and automation and all this other stuff. So So technology, there might be advancements, but that's why I really haven't the Fitbit thing. We've considered, but our health on our dairy herd health is so good that our veterinarian really has recommended that we don't need it right now.
Wow, that's a testament to how you guys manage your dairy.
Yeah, you do a good job.
And also dairies employs so many people. How many employees do you have there at the dairy?
So we kind of have a special program at our dairy. We have inmates that work for us. So I have 13 employees, regular employees, and then I have 3 inmates that work at my dairy, and then we have 3 or 3 inmates that work at the calf barn, and then we have 3 inmates that work for my dad's dairy, and then we have 3 inmates that do other things, welding and everything like that too. So these inmates that work for us, it's a real special program in Arizona. So they have to be like a model inmate to uh, get the opportunity to work outside the prison. In the prison, they make a few dollars an hour. Outside the prison, they make over $6 an hour, and it still comes out to we're still paying minimum wage or a little bit more because we have to pay for the officers that come out with them, and they do a great job for us. It's a great program. When they get out of prison, they usually have $5,000 or $6,000 in their pocket. We usually hire them afterwards because they've already been trained and they're doing a good job usually. And their their experience, we like them because they don't have any experience with the dairy. We can train them how to be around cows and how to move animals and treat them. So, but other than that, we do have 30 employees that do farming and harvesting and feeding. So total between my dairy and that is probably uh, 50, 50 employees.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that contributes to the economy.
Yep.
It's keeping people employed in the state. And it's also a great rehabilitation for those inmates because I'm sure some of them would have trouble finding jobs afterwards, even though they're model inmates. So I think that's a great service to them and to the community that you do.
And it's amazing. Like it's totally changed my idea of, somebody going to prison and, they made a mistake. A lot of them, you know, made mistakes that other people have made and not gotten caught. So I, I feel for them and they're hard workers and they're regular people just like us.
I have also heard programs like that really inspire them and kind of get them out of their discouragement from obviously having, it's an inspiration for a lot of people that are trying to get back to a normal life, I guess. Yeah.
And I think they're like me too. They just, don't want to deal with people. They'd rather deal with the cows, I think sometimes.
Probably.
So, for our listeners that are not around agriculture, what are 3 things you'd like them to walk away with from hearing you as far as dairies and what all you do?
I just really hope that everyone understands that the dairy farmer cares about the cow.
Yes.
We care about the quality of product that we're making. We want to i- ensure the public that we want to make the best product possible and that it's safe and it's a good nutritious drink that any or food that anybody could consume at a reasonable price. And we care about the consumer. We care about the quality of feed because we consume it too. Our families drink milk. That's why I always we talk about our with our employees. This is what's feeding your families. So make sure you guys care about your job and make sure that we're getting a good product for everybody. Um, One other thing too, I'd always like to say too is the raw milk is getting popularity out there, and it's always scary. You can be the best dairy farmer in the world, but just be that one sick cow that could get somebody really sick. We always say it's like drinking out of a stream. That water might be crystal clear, but you don't know what's upriver a little bit. And raw milk always scares me when people drink it. I grew up drinking raw milk. It only lasts 2 or 3 days in the refrigerator, and you got to have a stomach for it sometimes too. So people need to double, think about that when they start consuming raw milk.
especially if they have a compromised immune system.
Yeah, I think, I mean, anything from an animal source, it's important to cook it.
Right.
And that's what pasteurization does.
Yep.
It heats it and it makes sure that it's safe. So that is always the best way to go.
While maintaining that range of nutrients that are within a glass of milk or
Correct.
cheese.
Correct.
I'm learning well from Tamara.
And other than ultra filtered milk, I mean, pasteurization has been the same process since, I mean, what, the 20s, or I don't know, for over 100 years, probably, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not sure the exact number of years, but I'm for the exact reason of making sure the milk is safe.
Yeah.
So it's always best to buy pasteurized milk. Um, but anyway, you guys, this has been great. I have to ask one last question. Do you still do date night with the buffalo?
Well,
He's been retired and
it's hanging on
Okay.
the wall.
we
Okay.
do. We have him in our house.
Okay. Well, he's a pet of sorts. So
Yeah.
It's a reminder of our first date.
that's great.
And by the way, I have had bison burgers, aka buffalo burgers, and they are delightful. I think the comparison to me between buffalo and beef is the bison for me was tasted a little bit sweeter, naturally sweeter.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's what you got out of it when
It was excellent. It wasn't, it was an older animal too. And I had it all made into hamburger and roast, and man, the meat just turned out perfect. It was so good. And I'd like to get another one, but I just never have.
well, check in with the Kerrs. I think they still have they don't have a big herd, but they do have a running of the buffalo. So I was beginning to think, Casey, when you were telling us about your buffalo, that maybe this is a dairy farm trend or something.
Buffalo, the novel buffalo.
The novel buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you guys for taking this time. I know you have a busy schedule. Really appreciate you being on the podcast with us today. And hopefully we'll be able to have you back again soon if you have free time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Andrea, it was great to meet you, and Casey, good to see you again. And you guys keep doing all you do. Tell the rest of the Dugans hi and be blessed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.